Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I'm very happy to be here today speaking on the motion 151 that really addresses some important issues for the people in my riding of North Island Powell River about plastics and the impact that they have on the waters that sustain our communities across Canada and, in fact, across the world. I'm very pleased to be speaking on this motion as well because the member from Courtenay, Alberta also happens to be my neighbour, and I'm very proud of the work that he has done in this place and very proud that he brought forward this very important issue that is very basic to the people that we serve in both of our ridings. And Mr. Speaker, I'd also hope that you would take this moment to indulge me. On December the 1st, it was my grandson's birthday. I would just like to take this opportunity to wish him a very happy birthday. As all members know in this House, we don't get to be with our family members nearly as much as we would like to, so I just want to make sure that he knows that his Chichia grandmother is thinking of him on this important time for him. So when I think about plastics and the impacts that they're having on all the waterways across the world, I can't help but think of our grandchildren, all of our grandchildren, and the impacts that it will have on them in the future and the things that they will have to be prepared to address in the future as we move forward if we're not addressing this in a meaningful way. And the statistics are distressing. And I think that's something that I hope everyone in this House is taking some time to learn and understand about. You know, 20 million tons of debris enter the world's oceans every year. On average, in every square kilometre of ocean globally, there are 18,000 pieces of plastic. 80% of all plastics in the ocean come from land-based sources. 90% of plastic found in the ocean is microplastics. 95% of single-use plastics are used only once and then discarded. In fact, if we don't have some serious action by 2050, if this trend continues the way that it is today, there will be more plastic in the ocean than there are fish. And that is something that I think every Canadian, and I hope every person on this planet, seriously starts to look at and address in a meaningful way. We know that every year plastic litter kills more than 1 million seabirds and 10,000 or 100,000 marine mammals. And there are so many more realities that face the communities across our world. For the people of North Island Powell River, they're working every day as hard as they can to address these issues. And I can tell stories about doing my own beach walks with my family and, you know, carting tires off the beach and finding very small bits of plastic and trying to find as much space in our pockets to carry all of that debris off the beach. But I think what's really amazing is the amount of work that people in my riding are doing every single year to combat this. So I'm going to mention a few of them, and I want to really be respectful in knowing that I don't know what everybody is doing. I have a huge riding, but I want to acknowledge those that I do. We have dive clubs who do marine cleanups. They dive right into the water and they clean out debris. So Top Island Econauts and Campbell River Tide Rippers. The Orca Lab and Parks Canada partner every year to do a cleanup once a year around Michael Brigg Ecological Reserve at Robson Bight, which is an orca rubbing beach, several of them. Surfrider Vancouver Island does cleanup in remote locations in our region. The Great Canadian Shoreline Cleanup, which happens, so many community organizations get out and schools come together, and across the riding they clean beaches. The Living Ocean Society does many cleanups in their region. I remember in 2017, I spent a week in a remote beach in my riding, Grant Bay, and added to the collection, to the big pile that was built away on the beach that the Living Oceans Society comes and cleans up every year. So it's amazing. You just see these huge pieces of styrofoam, tires, plastic, you know, tons of things that are just heartbreaking to see on the beach, but everybody who comes to those beaches collects it, they pile it all up, and then it is removed. The Sierra Club that hosts several beach cleanups that I've had the privilege to participate in. The Tide Club does a big cleanup in the Campbell River Estuary. The Project Watershed does estuary stewardship in the Comox Valley. The Community Cleanup in Port Hardy that collects garbage everywhere across the community. The beach community of the Saratoga and Miracle Beach Residents Association. This past October, I was happy to attend their beach cleanup and was very impressed by the young people, the students from Miracle Beach Elementary School who showed up and got out there and help clean up the beach. And I want to be really clear. You know, a lot of these beach cleanups, not only are people out there cleaning up the beach, picking up every sparse piece of plastic that they can find, they're actually calculating it. And so I've been out there in the rain, you know, with a plastic bag over my piece of paper. We're picking up things, and then we're marking cigarette butts, small pieces of plastic, rope, tires, and so forth, just so that we have a better understanding of the beach and what's happening, cups and all of that debris. And it's disheartening sometimes to see how much people just toss out and how much work it takes for people to come behind and clean up. And I want to also acknowledge that many people clean up the beaches in their own personal time. In fact, I heard a story of one woman that for the past 15 years has been doing it almost every single day, cleaning up the beach in her area. So this is important work, and it's something that the people of North Island and Powell River really believe in, because we live on the ocean, because we live close to our waterways, our lakes, our streams, our rivers, and our communities, and we know that they produce so much for us. They feed our communities. They also bring a lot of tourism revenue and important work in our area, and we just want to see them be healthy, because the healthiness of our waterways is the healthiness of our people. And I think that, you know, when I look at the work that I've done in those with those community organizations, and when I just simply appreciate the work that they continue to do, they take the time, they go out, they calculate, they give stats back to us so that we know what's happening on our beaches, what's getting into our water. So, and I think, you know, Mr. Speaker, if we look at what this text of this motion really does, it's asking for meaningful action. And I think so many people in my riding and across Canada are saying we want to see meaningful action. We don't want to hear more sound bites. We want to see things that are moving forward. So this really is a motion that asks the government to work with provinces, municipalities, and Indigenous communities to develop a strategy to combat plastic pollution in and around aquatic environments. So this is really about that collaborative approach and working with all levels of government so that we can get in and provide the support that desperately needs to be done, that we make sure that there's resources out there for these organizations that work so hard. You know, I remember one time being on Quadra Island where we did a beach cleanup, and there was a huge one of those boxes for garbage, and it was almost completely full of styrofoam. And it was just debris from a lot of different industries that happen, different things that are happening in the ocean, and we're picking it up. And when they're in big chunks, that's fabulous. But when you go through the actual sand of the beach, you're finding small little pieces. So the whole part of this small broken down pieces getting into the water is something that we should all be concerned about. We want to see a reduction. This motion also asks for regulations that actually get to the part where we reduce. We make sure that we're doing less and less harm by using less and less of these things. We want to make sure that consumer and industrial use of single-use plastics, including but not limited to things that we see on the beach, plastic bags, bottles, straws, tableware, foam, cigarette filters, and beverage containers. You know, Mr. Speaker, I now carry around with me a stainless steel straw so that I don't have to use any plastic straws when I go out, and try to be attentive about making sure that we don't use those things that are just single one-time use, because the potential impact on our environment is just too strong. And the last thing that I feel that is so important that people need to know about what this motion asks is it asks for community-led projects to clean up plastics and debris on shores, banks, beaches, and other aquatic areas, and education and outreach campaigns on the root causes and negative environmental effects of plastic pollution in and around the bodies of water. So in the communities that I represent, the work is being done, but largely it's volunteer, and I think that's fantastic. I think it shows the commitment of the community, but we need to educate people more. We need to let them know the potential impacts of harm when they toss away a cigarette butt, when they toss a plastic lid from a cup, when they don't take time to make sure that they put their litter and their recycling where it deserves to be. And I really appreciate this government has moved forward with the Ocean Plastics Charter with the G7. I think that was a great step forward. But what I hear again and again in my riding is we want to see action, not just words. And this motion really speaks to having a plan, to working collaboratively and making sure that things happen. So I hope we take the next step. I hope everyone in this House supports this very meaningful motion, and we start to take action to make sure that our beaches and our waterways are as clean as they possibly can in this changing world that we live in. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.